Yo, what up, guys? It's Batflinger once again with a Genshin Impact video. Today, I'm just going to be going over some tips and tricks for the main character, Amino. This is basically my main at the moment. I am low budget, and I'm actually really loving it. My character just came online. I've got the black sword now, and I'm a sustain god doing tons of crits. It's just really fun. So I'm going to break this down into a few sections. I'll be going over how to use Palm Vortex effectively, tips for that, as well as Gust Surge. I have a little exploit in there that you can use to, I guess not really an exploit, but you can use it to get massive damage on larger enemies. And then once you get full cons, that's going to really take off. And yeah, and I'll just throw in a few bonus tips in there, go over some stat prios, different builds you can go for, and yeah. So hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Okay, so to start, I want to go over some Palm Vortex tips. There's basically two ways that you're able to use it. You are able to hold it, cast it, spreads elemental fire and whatnot, ice. And the other way that you use it is, it still has a cast time, but you basically just get the one tick. You can kind of just press it and it gets it off. So the pros and cons versus using each one. So holding it, so when you do the hold cast, this is going to be used mostly for small units. Once you get, I believe it's one con, get it really early on, it'll CC pull all the small units in towards the vortex. Can be useful in some situations against smaller enemies. Um, it's also good in situations where you need to burn a shield because you're just doing a little bit extra. It's not much more than the actual just one proc. Holding it actually isn't that much more damage. It's more just the CC and pulling everyone in. So the one tick where you just tap it is going to be more effective, higher DPS, because it's just one burst, one large tick, and then you don't have a lot of downtime where you're holding it. You're going to be able to attack and do other things, charge attacks. So it's going to be higher DPS, and you're going to be using the one tick more often than actually holding it down. So for higher DPS situations, you're just going to want to weave in, press it, and then just keep autoing the enemies down. More effective against larger enemies. Like, this isn't a good example because they're small. Holding it actually would be good here. But I'm just going to show you, you know, you kind of just go in, attack, and then you just kind of one tap it. That's just a bunch of damage. They pretty much, it's the higher DPS. You do get the large proc at the end. It's not much higher than just tapping it. One thing you really got to be aware of is with the Anemo MC, the downside is when using your E is it can be canceled and it goes on cooldown. So you have to let the cast go off, unless you're in like imminent danger. So like if I try to E him and then try to dodge, it'll just go on cooldown, right? And now I can't use it for 4 seconds. The damage didn't go off. Just one thing to keep in mind. So just keep in mind as well, as an amino character, you can pretty much combo with every element, which makes the main character very versatile. But when it comes to things you're not effective against, the one thing is actually going to be cryo. For whatever reason, amino doesn't affect cryo. Cryo is completely immune to amino. So the last gimmicky trick I guess I could say about Palm Vortex is you can actually use it to absorb less damage once you get it conned up a little bit, and you have the, I believe it is, you take reduced damage while casting it. So if there's a certain situation where you're going to be taking damage and you know you're going to be, you can use main character to basically cast this while you're about to take the damage and you'll take 10% less. Kind of gimmicky, but it's just something to point out. I'll show you a little bit of gameplay usage on that. The only one thing I've struggled to dodge is on the Hydra boss, and when the I believe it's the parrots or the birds, when they explode, I haven't been able to, I don't know if it can't be dodged or maybe I'm just bad, but I'll go ahead and show you that use now. Okay, now it's time for Gust Surge, your elemental burst move. Some people call it ultimate. Just gonna kind of show you how it works and what you can expect out of this move, how you should be using it. And yeah, so basically when you cast your ult, it's gonna go in a straight line towards the closest enemy to you. So like, let's say that barrel was the enemy. If I was standing here, I don't even have to be looking at it. If I cast my ult or my elemental burst, it's just gonna go straight into the enemy, and it'll keep going until it either runs out of time or it hits something it can't go through. So keep that in mind. So when you're going to use it, you kind of want to line up enemies so that you can aim it in a straight line through all the enemies. It's going to be the most effective way to do this. So as you can see, they're all lined up. I'll just go ahead and ult, and it just pulls them all in. That's going to be the standard way how to aim it. Nothing too special about that. Another thing you should keep in mind is that the main character, when casting your elemental burst, you do get the immunity frame, which is basically when you're in the animation casting your burst, you can avoid all damage taken. So one thing to keep in mind is if you're going against a large hilly troll, especially the ones with the shields, they're really easy to bait towards some type of terrain that your ult cannot move through. You just kind of bait them into running into it, and then you just ult right into the terrain. They'll take full damage, and it'll just sit on them and basically massacre them. Okay, so as far as getting out maximum DPS with your normal attacks, this is going to be pretty much relatable to any character, but with the Amino character, there's a few little nuances. When you're doing your normal attack string, you definitely want to get to the 4th and 5th, if possible, hits, because they're going to do significantly more damage. Also, you're going to want to weave in charged attacks when you have the stamina to spare, just to maximize your damage. And as well as I talked about earlier, when you just do the one tick on your palm vortex, weave that in as well. You're just going to get, that's going to be the way to maximize your DPS. With Amino character, on the 5th hit of the combo, it does a massive amount of damage because of the level 4 Ascension talent you get, where you do Amino damage on your last hit. So that will do even more damage if they're already affected by another element. So keep that in mind to maximize your damage. Okay, so just a quick bonus tip. Probably most of you are probably going to know about this, but perhaps you don't, and maybe this will help you. Definitely for newer players, you probably don't know about this. But if you're running a squad and you're using main character, but you don't have a claymore or geo damage, it's really inefficient to switch out characters or try to just auto them down. So the trick is actually to use plunge attacks when farming ore that does significant damage, and you can kind of just cheese ore like this. You do get max cons on Amino MC. You will get the intertwined winds, which this is when your character will really come online. It's going to go ahead and reduce, reduce the resistances of whoever you ult by 20% from Amino damage, and if your Gust Surge hits and absorbs any other element, that will also be reduced by that element. This is when your MC is really going to come online. Whether you're using it for your main DPS or support DPS, you can kind of just pull her out, cast your elemental burst, and the numbers will start to really go up, and you will be burning through enemies once you get this last con. You get it at AR 46, so yep, and it's completely free to play friendly. And that's something for you guys to look forward to. Okay, so for this part, I just wanted to go over stats and just let you know maybe what you should be aiming for when it comes to Amino MC. You're actually super versatile because you can kind of build a little bit of everything. So, main character, you're going to want attack, probably prio, like your main stat. You're going to want highest attack you can. You want to get your crit rate up. Good sets are going to be like Gladiator. Well, she can pretty much use any set, anything that's going to, bump your attack or your crit or your even elemental damage. The MC benefits greatly from elemental mastery. So you can kind of just get a mix of everything. If you do want to specialize, you can go for the full physical damage builds where you would just look for the goblet, the physical damage goblets. I know I have some somewhere. Well, I have them, and that's going to boost your attack the highest. If you are going for the physical damage and you want a craftable, I would say go with the prototype Rancor. I do think that the Iron Sting overall is better for MC. It's just going to be more consistent way to boost your damage and a higher boost to the damage as well. While Rancor will give you better flat normal attack damage and as well as tankiness, the Iron Sting will give you a greater amount of DPS. So keep that in mind. You can kind of build however you want. You can go for uh, attack build. You can go for amino bonus damage goblets. Basically, what you're aiming for is mostly attack, and then you want crit damage. Elemental mastery is really good as well. So those are going to be like your main things you're looking for. After that, the thing that's nice about the amino MC is you get built-in energy recharge. So that's not as much of a priority. It's nice to get a little bit, but you shouldn't be aiming for it. And for this last part, I will show you how I'm building the MC, and I actually find this to be really fun. This build just came online for me. I got the BP weapon, so this is kind of low budget friendly, not exactly free to play friendly, this build. But what basically I'm going for is I'm using her as a sustained DPS where she's just critting over and over again. So basically what you're going to need is a high crit rate so that you're getting the procs from the Black Sword, so you need to go for the Black Sword on the Battle Pass. Basically, it's going to boost your crit rate. You're going to get a bunch of free crit from here, and you're going to be regenerating HP as you're critting. So if you top that on top of your E with the Constellation, or your Vortex, which one is it? The one that heals, you're going to be you're going to have a lot of sustain and you're going to do a lot of damage. My stats right now, my crit at the moment, it could be better, but it's pretty decent. It's 65. I crit quite often. If I'm looking for a heal, it usually is first hit. Sometimes it takes two, rarely it'll take maybe 3 hits, and I'll get the passive heal from my Black Sword BP weapon. When your crit starts to get above 60-ish% up to where mine is, crit damage starts to become a lot more useful. So you can start looking for that more on your pieces of gear. The artifacts I have, not the greatest, but they're decent. I still rocking the Berserker set just for a little extra crit, put me over. And I have 3 gladiator pieces. I did get a perfect roll, luckily, on my feather. This was amazing. I couldn't believe it. Finally, I got a good piece. It rolled crit like 3 times. I got a couple rolls of attack, and this is basically the type of stats you're going to be looking for with main character when you're looking at your substats. So keep that in mind. Okay, guys, well, that's going to be about it for me in this video. That's about all I got. If I missed anything, I'll let you know. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or DM me. Also, if I missed anything, or maybe you have extra advice that you can give me, I consider myself a student of the game, actually, and if you have anything I don't know about and it would help me improve my game, I'd be very appreciative of that. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video.